welcome to a Meet Me at the Movies bonus edition as we talk about Mission Impossible, The Final Reckoning. Thomas got a chance for an early screening of this, Thomas. And yeah, some of the questions I've got to ask you, man, is it going to be delivering this thrilling and emotional conclusion to the Ethan Hunt saga? Are we going to have some breathtaking action sequences? Is this going to be a must-watch for diehard fans and maybe newcomers alike? I'm asking you, do we need to brace ourselves for an unforgettable ride that redefines the limits of action cinema?
Yeah. I even flew in on a biplane to the screening and back from the screening as well, hanging on for dear life. I was trying to be a method movie reviewer, uh, as we're talking about Mission Impossible Final Reckoning. And is Final Reckoning the last Mission Impossible movie? Well, I will say this is probably the one that feels like an ending more than any of the others that have come before it. I mean, final is in the title. And it does go out of your way to make you feel the weight of what is possibly a conclusion. It might even try a little bit too hard at times, and mileage may vary. Mileage may vary depending on your emotional connection or lack thereof to this franchise. But I'm a sucker for it, and I'm really not ashamed to say that. There's multiple times in this film where you're watching it and you're thinking, now wait a minute, what's going on here? Is that really necessary? And sometimes it's not all necessary, but I'm still glad we got this ride of pure insanity. It maxes out everything that can be accomplished with an action film. And I think a few recent examples I'll throw out there, in the same way that a lot of what we get in Christopher Nolan's Tenet or John Wick 4, in the same way that a lot of that is undeniably indulgent, this is Tom Cruise just basking in his own glory and the glory of his grand importance in cinematic history, because that is not up for debate. I think he stands on the shoulders of Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin just as much as Dustin Hoffman or Jack Nicholson. And I think Final Reckoning is just the ultimate portrait of the weight of the cinematic world on Tom Cruise's shoulders.
We're seeing a film that we've been waiting for a while, and when waiting for this second part, which is now the final part, and the longest, Thomas, 169 minutes of runtime, the longest installment in the franchise across the board. McQuarrie, of course, back as the director and the writer, co-writer for this. So from a story standpoint, did this click for you?
Yeah, well, it further explores the entity, this artificial intelligence force that is infiltrating everything in the entire world. And obviously, very timely film with how much AI has grown over the last 5 years or so. And I think they were writing this story even before like ChatGPT or OpenAI became what it was. So kind of prescient in those in many ways. And some people might have a little bit trouble getting on board with just how crazy they take the artificial intelligence angle in this film. But also, I do think ultimately, if you look at our potential future and what could happen if AI gets out of control, it very well could end up looking something like this. I mean, I very much hope it doesn't.
Okay.
I think there are enough smart people in the world that are going to prevent that from happening, but without having to bring in Ethan Hunt to fix everything for us. But I do think this is a solid portrait of what could happen in worst case scenario. But I do think that's where audience members it's going to be on the individual level, whether or not they click with that angle of the story.
Gotcha. A couple questions I want to throw out there before we give you a chance to give you your rating for Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I know that there was a high-stakes underwater sequence. Any other, you want to talk about that sequence or any other action set pieces that really were just kind of blew you away?
Well, yes, the underwater sequence, which features Tom Cruise diving to recover a MacGuffin from a submarine that was sunken. And I think previously his most famous underwater scene was in Rogue Nation, where he had to dive into an underwater vault. And I think this tops that scene.
Wow.
And yeah, I know,
Wow.
I know, because
Wow.
in this, you have him He's swimming around these sunken torpedoes, nuclear torpedoes that are, he's dodging every which way, and he's also in just frigid, freezing temps that are shutting down his body. And it's yeah, I think the underwater. This is probably the best underwater action set piece
Wow.
that I've ever seen personally. And
Wow.
then, of
Wow.
course, the big thing that has been teased for years and years, even before Dead Reckoning, even before part one of this, was the biplane scene that I
Yes.
alluded to earlier, where he is literally hanging off a plane that is, even in real life, not even just within the movie, but in real life, that is somewhere between 5 to 20 feet off the ground, over rivers in a canyon. And he did all this. Like I mean,
Whoa.
obviously he was strapped in. There were some of they took every safety measure they could, but he did this as realistically as anybody could without dying. And
Wow.
and,
Wow. Wow.
and I think all of this is in service of making the audience feel something that they've never felt in a movie theater before. And I think it would probably take me even two hands to count the number of scenes in this film that evoked those feelings for me.
Wow.
You look at some of the other films in the Mission Impossible franchise, whether it's Ghost Protocol or Rogue Nation or Fallout. I think those are practically flawless films, and this is not. But because it allows itself to be imperfect and messy, I think it ultimately arrives at this feeling of just grandiosity that we wouldn't have reached in a tighter, neater package. I think it almost needed to be a little bit just looser and felt like it was scrambling at times in order to reach those feelings that it did give me as an audience member.
Wow, I love it. Well, life is messy, and so it sounds like this kind of went right with that from that standpoint. A final question for you: any emotional callbacks or any character arcs that maybe tie back to some of the originals, like early films going back to maybe 1996?
Most definitely. I think probably the two most important films to the story in this, other than the last movie, Dead Reckoning, are Mission Impossible 1, Brian De Palma's original from 1996, and then Mission Impossible 3, J.J. Abrams' film from 2006, which introduced us to Michelle Monaghan's character, who was Ethan Hunt's wife. And that was, I think that was the first film that showed us this extremely vulnerable human side to Ethan. And so, yeah, I think Mission Impossible 1 and 3 are pivotal to the emotional payoffs that we get in this film.
Awesome. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is in theaters now. Thomas, final thoughts before your rating?
Yeah, well, Tom Cruise is not of planet Earth. We will never see another specimen like him. And I'm just glad to be here at the same time that he is.
Awesome, awesome. And your rating for Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning?
I'm going to give Final Reckoning an A minus, which might be higher than some other critics out there, but I can only speak for myself and speak for what I felt. So yeah, solid A minus for Final Reckoning, and it's one that I will return to many, many more times as I have with every other film in the Mission Impossible series.
Awesome. A minus for Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, right here on this bonus edition of Meet Me at the Movies. You can always join us every week on C19 TV as we give you films, interviews, and so much more. For Thomas Manning, I'm Noel T. Manning II, and for this edition of Meet Me at the Movies bonus edition, that's a wrap.
Won't you come and meet